Welcome to the Starting Over podcast. I am your host, Edward Shelton, aka Dark Logos. And this is where we look at the strategies, tactics, and mechanics behind the game of Heroclix. It's cold. I'm not going to front. I am really cold right now. It is almost 4 in the morning. Yeah, almost 4 in the morning here in Topeka while I'm recording. It is probably like 30 something degrees outside. And I have a space heater 1 and space heater 2. The previous resident of my apartment decided that they wanted to be a chain smoker. So let's say space heater 1 doesn't get used that much because it blows residential cigarette smoke into my apartment. So yeah, I've tried cleaning it out. I've tried wiping it down, trying to blow out as much crap as possible, but I probably get like as much carbon from like 30 packages of cigarettes when it blows. So anyway, today's episode, we're going to look at two things. Well, brief news item and then the two things. We're going to look at the organized play and then and the spoilers, but again, if you've watched this show, you probably don't care about spoilers about the Fear Itself event. Then after we briefly talk about that and the implications of that, we're going to look at some elements of team design of when you try a new tactic, it fails horribly, and then we figure out before we looked at what our stages of failure. Now we're really going to look back at the team and why didn't it succeed, and then looking at some specific elements in play style and mechanics. And then last is going to be something that's a bit viewer inspired. Um, Pretty much, there's a gentleman that listens to the podcast, Robert Haynes. Big up to you. Sends me emails pretty frequently, and wanted to know about how do we come back from the game once it's where we're down. So that's a big thing. So all right, here we go. First off. The Fear Itself event is announced. It's going to be starting in June, which part of me is a little happy. Part of me is like, okay, are we going to be in a downtime really for these events? I really think while they are nice and you can enjoy them, I do think about 3 months downtime is needed. Between these events because they start to blur together. Not only that, if you look at the announcement, and it's very unclear, and I don't like how WizKids has put it. Pretty much they said there's going to be an OP kit, and then on top of the OP kit, you have to order product to be able to buy the prize set. Yeah, I said it, a prize set. Pretty much there's going to be a 10 booster brick that you can buy for an event. So it's going to be like a total of 20 boosters for a case. And you run these for, you pretty much sell these to the people in the venue, and you do your Fear Itself event. Now, what is pretty much going around in speculation is that these are random boosters, and then you add in the fact that you have technically a prize support set, not just a prize kit. You have a prize kit and a prize support set, and that does not bode well at all because WizKids can't make a set without a chase. So you add in the element of, oh, look, here's a chase into a prize support set, plus adding in the fact that WizKids is going back and cracking the whip on event reporting. Yeah, you gotta love that. Uh, we're seeing old WizKids go through the Lazarus pit. I guess enough turns have passed. They decided that they could step back on the board. So some people think that this is a great move. Some people think that it is a horrible move. I personally think that this is a bad idea. And I look at it from this standpoint. If you're a collector, yeah, you're going to go broke trying to collect a Fear Itself a Vit set, unless you can find a a dealer that will sell you the whole entire, like, I think, case. You would have to probably buy a case or a case and a half to get a complete set. But considering that for you to do anything in the future, for that venue to do anything in the future, they have to report to WizKids. Now, I don't know how they're going to do this with Diamond and Alliance, because I don't know if they're going to set up a blacklist of, no more prize support for you. But the moment that they started, well, when they made it so that we had to pay for prize support, I think WizKids, in all honesty, should have just recognized they can't demand anything anymore after they made us pay for prize support. Now, if prize support was given for free, oh yeah, that's completely different. But you see prize support sold on eBay all the time. And the worst part of it is, if WizKids really did care about making sure that people did the events properly, or that prize support wasn't abused, they would make it so that at the end of the year, you could buy all the prize support for the year in a complete set. Pure and simple. Like, oh, I spent $50 and I got all the year's prize support. That's it. That's all they had to do. It's not like it's a rocket scientist decision. Oh, make it so that we can buy prize support directly from WizKids and they make direct money. Ooh, who would have thought? So, anyway, I know some people will say that WizKids dealt with the failure of reprinting a set and what happened with that. And I could say, okay, I see that viewpoint, but that was a standard set. That was not prize support. There are a lot of people that don't go to tournament venues and they would buy it. And I would be, and I'll be honest as well. If someone told me that I can get an Infinity Gauntlet with all their gems, I would pay $20 for that, just straight up. If someone could tell me, and I mean saying buying it from WizKids and I wasn't a tournament player, if someone told me that I could get all of the No Man's Land figures in one prize support box kit that I can buy myself and it would cost me $30, I'd do that. Uh, so what we actually see is it's not business savvy now. It's just, I think there's a lot of blunders that are going on. And, hey, it could just be the fact that they can't get the stuff printed again in China, or wherever they're doing. I think, yeah, it's China. So, oh well, that's my gripe. Let me know what you think about the Fear Itself an event with the information that we have out now. I really do want to know what everyone's opinions are, mainly because I think this is WizKids going in the wrong direction. Definitely smaller venues, they're going to be pressed. Now, some people said, hey, look, smaller venues, it'll be easier for them to collect and buy boosters. But at the same time, the smaller venue still has to buy enough product to deal, well, not just to deal, to be able to buy the, I can't believe I'm still, I would ever say it like this, to buy the special duper prize support set. So larger venues, their complaint is that they just won't have enough boosters for their venue. And I could say from seeing one of my venues that I'm playing in Kansas City grow, that yeah, uh, there wouldn't be enough boosters, but at the same time, there's another venue where they would hardly be able to buy enough, for the venues, for the venue itself to actually get the super duper LE prize set. So, and on top of the prize kit. So it is a bit disappointing. Um, but there's really nothing we can do. No one's in charge of WizKids but WizKids. So, all right. Sort of, just moving on along just a tad. Uh, I think we can say one thing for certain is that our our development of looking at a team uh, through loss has been growing over the last month, and I'm not trying to be depressing, and I'm not trying to be this negative Nancy. But I think that it is something that we need to take a healthy look at. And so when we're looking at a team failure, this is mainly inspired by a match that I know happened between two really good players, which will remain unnamed until they tell me otherwise. In which one deployed a very direct method of play, and the other employed a experimental method of play. And pretty much the experimental method team had problems. Um, their main problem was is that they thought they had one figure that would be able to give total transportation, and it didn't work out. So the thing that happened was is once their transportation was eliminated, the team had no mobility whatsoever, and that is quite interesting. And he went back, sort of broke down the team, sort of saw like, oh, okay, I don't have mobility, and was able to resolve the main problem of the team. Also, he had some misunderstandings on pretty much just using the utility belt on some specific things. Now, you might say, okay, Dark Logos, you bring this up. What's the lesson here? Where do we get some development from? And I would say when we actually come back and we look at a failing team, and we actually look at its mechanics, then we have to actually come back and look at the second half of team dissection, which is the back end R&D. The first thing that we would say is there what worked, what really worked, because it's easy to say this didn't work as a whole, but then specifically we have to say what worked. Okay, did Batman attack properly? Okay, that went off. Was I able to get Shazam into position? Okay, that happened. Was it the fact that uh, Donald Blake somehow got the gem of Crimson Gem of Sidorak? That was not a good thing. Okay, there we go. That part didn't work out the way I thought it would. Or more so saying, hey, I put this setup here, and I've done everything properly, and now all of a sudden I'm in a position in which one lucky dice roll or one unlucky dice roll, and the whole thing changes. No, that's not what went wrong. We can't control that. So we have to separate between the two. We have to say like, okay, this thing didn't perform as intended, versus something outside of my control happened. Okay. So you can't control the dice. And if you can, you're cheating. And if you don't have loaded dice and you can control the dice, please email me at startingoverpodcast@gmail.com. Anyway, the next thing that you have to come to after you say what failed, I'm sorry, what worked, is what failed. Um, what failed to an extent is like, oh, okay, this didn't perform. I'm sorry, I just said that. Oh, 3 a.m. kicking me in the butt. What worked? What worked? Did it perform properly? What failed? Did it not do what it was it but did it not do what it was intended to do? So you have those two elements right there. And again, you have to look at elements that you can control and elements that you can't control. After that, what you have to come to is the sense of how much of this is the failure of the team is me. How much of it is me? I had an opponent recently in which uh, I knew how that opponent played, and because I knew how that opponent played, I was able to put my opponent in a situation where, with some risk, that person could have won, but that person is very risk averse and they don't like the idea of taking damage for potential gain. They like guaranteed uh, gains. Well, here's the thing: you can have guaranteed gains in Heroclix. The thing is, you will end up in a situation in which you will lose. If you're in a larger venue, you're just going to lose on points. Just straight up. It doesn't matter anymore how many points you retain. Once WizKids got rid of that, it didn't matter if you were able to keep all your force or lose all your force or whatever. Okay, it's how much you KO, which makes the game an aggressive game. You can't just sit back and be passive. At the same time, you can't overemphasize defense. All right, so if you look at the game that I'm talking about in particular, the gentleman utilized several mechanics in which he could deploy, but also shift around damage. But he was so concerned about shifting around damage and not taking substantial damage that he just pretty much kept retreating back to this position. And what I did really easily was just make him come after me. Now, did he? Well, actually, I came aggressively after him, and I found out I couldn't do some things that I wanted to do. But in the midst of that, from the point the map was selected to the point in which turns were decided, yeah, it was clear. My opponent didn't think clearly because I put my opponent in a situation in which it was foreign to him, and then also into a situation that is completely opposite of his play style. So that's just something to consider. The next thing that becomes really interesting when we look at breaking down the mechanics of the team is, did you actually have what you need for it to work? Now, again, this goes back into looking at what failed. Okay, so if you say I'm going to power up Superman, and Superman is going to go in and one shot everybody. Well, if Superman has a 3 base damage, unless he has a ton of perplex or a ton of stat mods and some other ability, he's not going to come in and one shot everything. Okay, so you might say, well, that Superman's cheap and he has great stats, but he has 3 damage. He can't go in and one shot everybody. That's probably a bad idea. Okay, that's a bad figure to pull out. But if you say, okay, we're going to use Superman and use Superman in an effective way and bump his stats so that he can cripple or one shot, then that's different. But you have to come back and say, like, all right, did I have the right piece for this job? Or did I expect the wrong things from this piece? Now, this also comes in from people misunderstanding rules or rulings or wordings on special powers or traits or improved movement or improved targeting when it comes out. And I'm waiting for improved defense and improved damage. When those last 2 elements come out, there's going to be a character that's so improved, he's more improved than his card is. Or he's so improved that his card is a hologram. There you go, with nanite paper. Anyway, you need to be mindful of your position, and then also, did you actually pick the right figure for the job instead of wanting that figure to be the right figure for the job? A lot of people will say, okay, this is a new one. Void is awesome, from the Streets of Gotham team pack, the Wildcat Void. Void is awesome. She zips around and she heals. She has super senses. She outwits improvs. She is, for 70 points, most of what you need in support. Plus, she carries figures around. She doesn't attack well worth a darn. She doesn't. Okay? So, if your goal is by saying, I have Void, and I'm going to use Void to kill some figure or other on the board in this X or Y positioning situation, then I would say, no, man, that's a bad idea. Don't do that. Okay, you're expecting the wrong things out of the piece. All right, so the last thing that we really need to look at from the mechanics perspective, and saying, okay, why did our team fail? What happened? And I think it's the bigger one, in which people look at as the starting point, and it really shouldn't be the starting point, is what is the opposition doing that shut us down? Okay, so you might have had this team and it works good on paper, but you brought out into the field and you saw X, Y, Z, and Omega completely stomp the fire out of that tactic. So you come back to the lab and say, wow, I got hosed over by a special power. Okay, so you can say, I got hosed over by a special power. So you could say, all right, because I got hosed over by a special power, I can't count that as common. I can count that as, okay, this figure might be the silver bullet to my team, or I have to be really, really careful in how I play this team in the future. The next thing that comes into play is, okay, was it a standard power? Now, if it's a standard power, then you're in a whole world of trouble, because then the access to that ability is multiplied by 100. Okay, so you don't know if your opponent's going to bring Smoke Cloud, and if Smoke Cloud messed you up, then yeah, you're going to have problems. If your opponent having outwit is a problem, then yes, you really need to go back to the drawing board. Because if you can't deal with outwit, which is more common than smoke cloud, then yeah, you're going to have problems. So people will say, oh, look, paper, rock, scissors, and blah, 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 blah. We've already established there is no paper, rock, scissors situation. People are being lazy. Yes, there are things that counter other things, but really, you can get around some hard counters. There's some hard counters that you just can't get around, like pulse wave. There's no way to get around pulse wave. Okay, but there are ways that you can hinder pulse wave. Like you can perplex down the pulse waver's damage, or you can perplex down the pulse waver's attack. You can outwit pulse wave if you can. You can, if your probability control is outside of the blast radius, you can pretty much just set it up where you can prop your pulse wave, their pulse waver. There are tons of options and for you to do. Okay, you're not stuck. So that's pretty much it. And we're going to go into our second topic right now as I wrap myself up against the blanket and put my feet up against a space heater. Not wise, kids. Do not do that at home, but it's like 20 degrees in my apartment. Maybe not 20 degrees, but a good 40. The next thing that we're going to look at is how do I come back from behind? I'm down points and I'm going for the win. If you go back to one of the previous podcasts, I can't remember which one it is. We talk about how do what is my position in sacrificing, and I've talked about sacrificing a lot, and people don't like doing it. If you are behind, did you sacrifice for better positioning or for a key tactical maneuver? So we need to establish, first off, why are you behind? Are you behind in points? Now again, it was just behind in points. That's all the main thing we're establishing. Am I behind in points so that I can win the game? Am I behind in points due to a blunder? Am I behind in points because of a early pressure play by my opponent? Am I behind in points due to some unforeseen circumstance? Okay. So all those things we can answer really easily. So the first thing that we have to say is, if I'm behind due to a tactical advantage, so that I lost 150 points so that their Superman is on his earthbound click. Okay, bam, right then I automatically know that you have the potential to win. Now the question comes in is, how far does the Superman run, and can you kill him before he runs away, or if killing him is necessary? You're going to kill him eventually, but at the same time, do you need to kill him now, or is there other fight that you can do? Okay, or is he going back to the medic? Okay, so those things have to be considered. So you sacrifice points for a tactical advantage. So in that case, I could say, know what your in-game plan is and go for it. All right, just go for it. If you are in a bad position because you did a tactical blunder, then you have to ask yourself, what can I rally with? Now, if you have nothing you can rally with, you feel like, okay, I can't do anything. This is when I start saying, turn the game into small victories. And after several small victories, you might come back even. So you might say your first small victory is, my goal is to make sure that Black Adam has uh, is not hitting me for 3 damage. Okay, so you're using your perplex to lower Black Adam's damage. Okay, and you're picking up the objects that are nearby. All right, that's a small goal. You achieve that goal. Now Black Adam's damage output is reduced, and you're not as afraid of him. Okay, or you can say, all right, my next goal is to make sure that Spider-Man cannot get by me to use his special power. Okay, so then you would have to move into position, make sure that you're counting squares of movement of Spider-Man. If you need to negate improve movement or anything like that, go ahead. I mean, not negate improve movement, negate leap climb. Wow, wow. Anyway, so there's that as well. So when we look at it, we start doing these small victories. We start negating our opponent's advantages slowly. Then all of a sudden we can put our opponent into a position in which they will either start making big risks, or they will start playing more conservative game. 9 times out of 10 they'll do bigger risk. When they start playing a more conservative game, what we really have to do then is realize this: if they start playing a more conservative game, they can't have high gains. Okay, so the more conservative you play, the lower your gains will be. The more liberal your play, the more your gains can be. The more conservative your play, the less your loss can be. The more liberal your play, the more your loss can be. So what we're banking, and again, I'm not talking politics, people. So don't think that. Okay, so if our opponent is liberal in play and is going full out aggression after we've negated several of their advantages, they have to pan out those high risk scenarios. They have to pan out for them to regain their lead. If they do, yeah, it's almost shut down. The game's lost. If they fail, your advantage comes back up. Okay. So your chance of winning of winning goes up higher. If they play a conservative game, your chances of winning are based on your attention to detail. Okay, so that's another key thing. So we can really see that most of our questions are going to be resolved of, is our opponent playing conservatively or is our opponent playing liberally? The next element that I feel that we really need to look at is time. And a lot of people aren't aware of time. And if you have a person that thinks a lot, like myself, or they have a super hyper complicated team like myself, there's times in which there are so many options that they get overwhelmed. And so you can have people try to assess all of their options. And I will say that's one of my faults that I'm working on, is you don't really need to assess all your options. You need to assess your primary options. And you're like, hold up, wait, that doesn't sound smart. No, trust me, it is. Your primary options are the ones that are synonymous with your objective. Okay? And you need to know what your objective is. If your objective is to wipe him from the map this turn, then your actions need to go along that way. But if you have no objective for that turn, then all of a sudden you have these, what you believe is these infinite level of possibilities. And that's not true. All your possibilities are finite and limited. It's up to you to limit them some more so that you have focus. Okay? Because I can do all sorts of options that are bad. I don't need to sit there and think about 15 ways to Sunday why this is bad for me to move, my support figure right next to their major attacker. I don't need to consider that as an option unless I'm sacrificing that figure and that's my goal. Okay? So we're really just coming back and we're sort of trying to put a little bit more, I want to say polish on it, a little bit more analysis just because of the time element. Now, with time, some places allow you to keep your own time along with the timekeeper of the round. If so, do it. If not, okay, but be mindful if you take 10 minutes a turn or 15 minutes in a turn. Those things can bite you in the butt real bad. The timepiece element and knowing your round time can help you definitely when you're determining if you're taking too long or your opponent is taking too long. And just be mindful of that. Also be mindful of stalling too for that end game rally. If you know that you have 5 minutes left or 15 minutes left, that you really want to start trying to hurry up. One way for you to just help yourself is do home games. If you can buy this, do it. If you don't have one and you can't afford it, that's fine as well. But buy a chess clock and go and get a friend that's, you're also sort of going through that training regimen with. And I want you to do the following. Set up a 300-point game. You all do the game. Set your chess clock to 10 minutes each. You each get 10 minutes. Okay? And play your game. So your round should be no more than 20 minutes. Okay? And the first one to flag loses. Okay? Now, what does this do? It makes you speed up your thinking. And you'll start to realize through experience that, oh yeah, I don't need to think about that. Or, no, I've been in this situation before. This is a bad idea. Okay? So you have those options to consider when playing other people. Just train up, get a sense of time. Okay, but when you're dealing with somebody that has an advantage, you're down, and you're approaching that end of the round. If you have 5 minutes left, you need to have your brain already prepped and ready to go to be in that mode so that you don't rush and make poor decisions. And then you also need to know, like, once you start getting that last 5 minutes, that, yeah, your opponent can sort of stall out. And it would be perfectly fine for them to stall out if their advantage is slowly declining, because if they made a 3-minute turn, no one's going to think twice about that. So hopefully you can sort of like take most of these elements and realize, like, okay, we can come from behind. The main thing that you need to do is you need to assess your situation, and you need to come up with your plan of how you're going to come back, and then make small gains. If you make small gains, you can eventually either break even or come out ahead. The one thing I do quote Day 9 a little bit because StarCraft tactical commentary is very useful for Heroclix, mainly from the pure points that they have professional play. And the professional esports players say this: it's not good to just be like, whoop, I do my strategy, I do my build, then bam, the game's over in 15 minutes. Okay, that's a chaotic strategy. That can work or not work. It's not guaranteed. But if you have the methodology of gradual small gains, then it's inevitable. Winning is inevitable. Okay. It's just a matter of maintaining your lead, not trying to end it to get the win, but maintaining your lead until the conclusion. A lot of people will try to gain a lead and then say, okay, I've gained the lead. That means that I can go all in right now. Well, no, you've gained a lead and you killed a major piece. Go kill the next major piece and the one after that and the one after that. Oh, wow. You see how by not rushing in to wipe out their whole team in 2 turns, that you can maintain your lead and win? So, hopefully, all of this is helpful in understanding about how to come from behind. If you have any ideas personally about, or views on coming back from behind, the approved play set up for Fear itself, or anything else I've talked about in the last few podcasts, hit me up at startingoverpodcast@gmail.com. That's startingoverpodcast@gmail.com. Twitter at startoverpod. I need to do something on Twitter. I think my goal is maybe once a week throw something up on Twitter. If it's not, like show notifications. Um, a lot of things I do during the day I can't talk about on the podcast or on Twitter, or all the things that I've learned in my job uh, about government. And I'll say this firsthand, working in government is, do not trust the news. They do not know what they're talking about. Unless you're watching C-SPAN, everybody's a pundit, and everybody does not know what's going on. And I can say that firsthand. All those the news outlets don't know what's really going on. Uh, Going back to to wrapping up the show, you can send hit me up on Twitter. I do get notifications when people do sort of talk about me. So you can try sending a question on the Twitter, but I really prefer you emailing me or putting it on the blog, because then that way I can get something a little bit more fleshed out that I can work with. Okay. Uh, Also, speaking of the blog, it's startingoverpodcast.blogspot.com. There is content 3 times a week. I can guarantee that. The goal is Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And if you check some of the blog post times, you can see 11:59 on Wednesday on some days, or 10 p.m. on a Monday or something along those lines. So bear with me. I I sometimes, before, I had time to get everything out the day ahead. Now it's more of day of. So definitely on the weekends, it's Friday, Saturday for a reason, because most of the time I want to talk about what I learned from tournament play, and give those fresh insights to you. If there's any figure that you want me to sort of just dig into, say, hey, what are my options with this figure? Uh, Hit me up. Definitely, that's the type of stuff I put on the blog. Some things that are more psychological in nature of being a better player, a better HeroClix player, are on the blog, so that the people that really just like the whole, what's good, uh, you know, mindset of what's meta. I do try to put that into the show, and then some of the problem solving stuff in the show. But a lot of the mindset, like this is how you focus, this is what you need to really look at. I'm really trying to put that on the blog also, while, looking at the pieces and stuff. So again, there is separate content, original content, very little, if at all, overlap with the show. Um, yeah, so that is pretty much it. So hopefully you enjoyed the show, and we shall be doing some more shows soon. Next week will probably be a little bit chaotic, um, but I will still try to get something out for you all. All right. Thank you for listening. And remember, we all have to start over sometime.